All right, what a beautiful piece by Miriam Nyambura there. As promised, I'm now joined by the Kajiado Governor, Joseph Ole Lenku. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I see you are also representing the culture as Miriam was there.
Yes.
In that special report.
Today is to talk Maasai issues by Maasai himself, and I'm sure you've not had an opportunity to talk to us about our culture, so you have the opportunity now.
Yes, I do.
Here we come.
Here you come. All right, so... you know, when we started the news hour, I was saying our athletes, you saw the New York City Marathon.
We're very proud.
Clean sweep.
That is Kenya for you. We're very proud Kenyans.
Yeah.
And congratulations to our athletes.
Men and women's races, historic. So I was saying, aside from athletics, what Kenya is known for is the Maasai culture, because in that report Miriam talked about you know, seeing the Maasai beads and the Maasai blanket on runways internationally. What do you think it is about your culture that, you know, has stood the test of time?
You know, if you talk to people outside Kenya, in Europe, in the Americas and all that, about Kenya, they will tell you they either know the Maasai or the athletes. So really, the Maasai are the face of Kenya, and historically Kenya was like Maasai land. The story of Joseph Thompson, the early explorers, telling their mother countries that if you want to rule Kenya, you must subdue the Maasai. So Kenya and Maasai land are one and the same thing. And we are very proud that we've been able to represent everybody with regards to culture. And we are now taking our culture a notch higher. As you are aware, we are going to the Amboseli on the 4th to the 8th of November to celebrate our culture, to talk about it, but also to dollarize it. You know, a lot of people on their side are making money on this culture. In tourism, you know, you hear Maasai market and Maasais are not there. It is time for the Maasais to take the space of this culture to make it like their cash crop. If you look at each community, they have a cash crop, either coffee, milk, tea, and there is an appropriate support system by government to that cash crop. But now you have seen that our beads are going the world. They are marketing our country. They are supporting our tourism. But the way you have a coffee board or a tea board or a dairy board, you have nothing from government that support Ushanga. There is a conversation around Ushanga initiative, but it has not reached a level where it is properly positioned, it is marketed, and the operators benefit from it. As the Ma Nation, the Maasai people, we began this conversation in Masai Mara in 2023. We took it to Samburu National Game Reserve in 2024. We are now going to Amboseli in 2025 to celebrate our culture, to share with the Kenyans, but also to position it rightly as a product for our community. And it is already showing signs that it can work. It just requires the government support. At the county levels, we are working on it. We need the national government system like our Ushanga board, so that it is properly marketed, supported for it to benefit the operator. So I want to welcome Kenyans to Amboseli, the 4th to the 8th, with the president coming on the 8th, and it is going to be a double celebration. We have their culture to celebrate, but also that is the time the president is correcting a historical injustice of returning Amboseli to the county government. An injustice that happened somewhere along the way and position Amboseli wrongly as a national park. I think it's important for me to say the distinction between a national park and a game reserve. In the delineation of national parks and game reserve in the 1940s, Amboseli and Mara were called the Southern Game Reserve, and they were one. But at independence, the County Council of Narok and the County Council of Kajiado had their own parks. There was a squabble between the then minister, Ole Lenku, from Kajiado, and the chairman of Kajiado County Council, Ole Lenku. In their squabble, the national government felt like the park is being run down, and then the status was changed. But since then, to date, Maasais have been petitioning the national government that Amboseli is not a national park, it's a game reserve. President Kibaki in 2005 said, no, this is a historical injustice, it must be returned to the Maasai. To the best of our knowledge, we believe, and very strongly so, that Kibaki went to be with the Lord knowing he gave the Maasai back their Amboseli. We are happy that President Ruto is actualizing that. And what is this National Park and Game Reserve? A national park is a an area set aside for wildlife and wildlife only. Normally, they will even be fenced off. A game reserve is an ecosystem that is shared by the community and the wildlife. If you fence off Amboseli, you kill it because the wildlife are in the group ranches or in community land. Amboseli is just a small wetland where wildlife come to drink water. So to continue to position it as a national government and it is the community supporting it is wrong. But we want as a county government of Kajiado to go even a notch higher and create what is now called a third generation park. A third generation park considers three factors: the environment or the ecosystem, the wildlife, and community livelihoods. If you look at the current model of conservation, it only focuses on wildlife with total disregard to the environment and with no consideration to the neighboring communities. It was a colonial thinking that we are coming to protect this wildlife from these Africans. These Africans who live this wildlife, they will kill them. We need helicopters, we need guns. It is wrong because they found these communities with the wildlife. And therefore, a wedge was put between the communities and their wildlife. So now the community see the wildlife near Serikali, near KWS or yetu, then you hear human-wildlife conflict. Now we want to return to tell the people, these are your wildlife. This proceeds from wildlife is supporting your water, supporting your education. It is even supporting your livelihood like livestock rearing and dairy and all that. But in return, give this wildlife space to roam. These are your wildlife. The way your cows is yours, this is also yours. This is your heritage. And I am sure along the way, Amboseli will set the pace for a new look into conservation. Unless you bring the communities that host this wildlife to the center of conservation, unless you plow substantial resources back to those ecosystems, there is no future for the wildlife, and then we'll lose our wonderful heritage. So we are happy that this is happening. We congratulate the president for the courage. The Maa Nation is happy, and I'm sure Kenyans along the way will also appreciate that this is an injustice that has been corrected.
All right, so in realizing this third generation park,
yes.
What changes do you intend to make?
First of all, the Maa community has very graciously allowed an additional 1 million acres into the ecosystem to allow more roaming space. So one of the big changes that's going to be is that there's going to be more space for wildlife and less human-wildlife conflict. In addition, the communities like the Maasai here now, they are selling their beads at the periphery. They will be brought to the center. So that at the gates, there will be bead shop, there will be communities trading there, and therefore they'll also have a say. But also, in extreme dry spells, some areas in Amboseli will always remain water points. So even their wildlife will also, their livestock will have an opportunity to drink water from the park. Because it is going to be a shared resource. Community ownership is very critical for sustainability. We are creating an organization as the county government, model on the lines of KWS, so that it is not managed from the county headquarters. It is managed from the ecosystem itself. And I had said earlier, and I want to emphasize that 3 key things must happen. The ecosystem, that is the habitat. So enlarging the habitat will work well. Community ownership will reduce the human-wildlife conflict. Support from this money coming from wildlife to the communities, so that these communities have more money for their bursaries, have more money for water, have money for their dispensaries, because the money will be shared that the county government will have a fraction, the ecosystem will have a fraction, and the community will have a fraction. Currently, from even open conversation, Amboseli has been carrying everybody in KWS. We are happy that the national government is seized of the need to allocate KWS more money from the exchequer to support parks that are not sustaining. But now the Amboseli community, the Amboseli ecosystem will now benefit from this wildlife. Then there will be true conservation. Then you don't have to use extreme security to protect this wildlife, because they will be at home with their community. That is the essence of our third generation park.
All right. I know you've talked about human-wildlife conflict, that has been an existential threat, right?
Yes.
But so is something such as climate change.
Yes.
Which I presume also affects the kind of wildlife and the numbers that we see in these parks. What's your long-term plan on that?
There was an argument one time, because if you visited Amboseli lately, you'll find that Amboseli has become like a semi-desert. The elephant population has increased substantially, and they have destroyed all the trees. There is no vegetation. Then there were two research scientists who said, what is causing this problem? One said, by removing livestock, which are carriers of some seeds, of some plants, then you lose the plants. Another one said, no, if you fenced off an area, you'll see the trees regenerating. And they did the test. So by just fencing and protecting areas from some of these elephants, then the forest or the trees will come back. But it was very difficult to do that without the support of the community, because the roaming space was shrinking. So by communities opening space for wildlife to roam, we can fence off some areas, have them regenerate, open it up, bring the animal, fence another area, and in a short period, we will have Amboseli in the right shape. The way it is now, it looks very untidy. It looks completely overrun. It has no vegetation. And so we want to restore the vegetation through that regeneration and just basic fencing. And then we will, in a small way, combat this climate change. By allowing resources to go to the community from this wildlife, we want to encourage our communities that in extreme dry spells, they do feedlots to avoid their livestock going to graze haphazardly. In so doing, we'll only leave the rangelands for either to regenerate or for the wildlife until the rain season comes. There is a new research that the Maasais had a pattern of grazing, and environment protection, where in the dry period, you move to a certain point. When it is the rain season, you come to this area. And because of this disorder and lack of proper planning, that was interrupted. We want to return that to say, because we call it a Olopololi system. This is the period where we live during the rain season. In normal dry spells, you can move to this area. In extreme drought situation, you can do feedlotting. You don't have to compete with the wildlife in the open rangelands. And in so doing, we can also remove tourists from the center to say your game drives, you can only, if you have, say, 3 days in the park, you do in the current park situation 1 day, you go to this conservancy another day, you go to this area another day, then you remove extreme, center, because currently everybody is at the center, everybody is at the park, and the park is just dying. So we are sure, not even hopeful, we are sure that this will restore the glory of Amboseli.
All right. So let me redirect you back to the festival.
Yes.
What can we expect to experience? What makes it stand out?
First of all, you can see, even from the short conversation Nyambura had with the Maasai, that our culture is beautiful. So you will enjoy that beauty. But we also, because we are going to have Maasai representation from across the entire Kenya, from Marsabit to Samburu to Laikipia to Nakuru, Narok, Kajiado, everywhere, we'll also have a conversation to tell these people the value of this culture. If you look at our traditions, and we have under UNESCO, UNESCO say there are 3 aspects of the Maa culture that need to be safeguarded. Previously, the Maasai community have a time when the young boys are prepared to become men. We call it Enkipata. We have a time when the young men are circumcised and they become Morans. And that period will add some value, the discipline, protecting community, taking orders from the elders, and all that. We are complaining as a country about our young people. The loss of our young people is because our young people have no culture to follow. So they have to depend on YouTube, to depend on what is trending, to depend on what is this. We want to say we want to keep our culture. It serves us right, but we now want to introduce important aspects that are inevitable. One is education. Historically, when the colonialists came, removed the Maasais from the highlands, which they call the White Highlands, and took us to what they call closed districts. Narok and Kajiado were called closed districts. This closed district basically condemned Maasais to stay in that environment with total regard to water, to schools, to hospital, and they were told just practice your culture. So it was big-time discrimination. You never hear a mission school in Maasai land. You never heard, so they say Maasais don't want to go to school. If education is compulsory, it is by law and order that everybody must go to school. Why were Maasais left without going to school? I went to a school which was not a boys' school, where we had no girls in school, because those days the girls were not going to school. It was discrimination. So we want now to tell our people, everybody must go to school. Every child must go to school. So it's also a conversation about what is current. Civic obligation. As the Ma people, we have not been exercising our civic obligation, especially with regard to elections. The complaint Somalis had of vetting for border counties, Maasai suffered the same. So you find many Maasais do not have IDs. So we are going to say now, there is no discrimination for those of us who live in the borders. Everybody must register, and you as Maasai, you must also vote. And vote to have your voice. So it is also a conversation about directing the community into the value that participating in civic obligations, they have that duty as well. But also, you know, history places Maasai at the center of the nation, Kenya. But over time, for lack of education, for lack of important facilities like, hospitals, water, for lack of government, because for us, government was police the day the cows were stolen. So for us, government was danger. To other communities, government is jobs, government is water, government is hospital. So we want now our community to know they have also an obligation to contribute meaningfully to Kenya. We don't want to stay as a peripheral community. We feel that the Maasai must play a bigger role than we are playing now.
Are you tying all of this to the festival?
They are going to be part of the festival. It is a 5-day event. We have our first day, we are talking about youth, the first day. The second day, women.
So are you doing a baraza setup or what?
I hope you'll come and do your news there to see what it is. It is a gathering. Every day we'll be expecting more than 10,000 people. Every day. Of course, not just Maasais only. We have a section for investors because we want to showcase investment opportunities in our counties. But also our women are going to talk about being women. Why do we hear that in these nomadic communities that the girls' pregnancy is the highest? Where did we lose it? Because it is unacceptable that when it comes to early marriages, oh, Maasai tuko huko. When to come girl-child pregnancies, Maasai tuko huko. It is time we have that conversation and say it is not our space. You know, when fragmentation of land came, the Maasai concept of land was that land was divine from God. It is to be used for grazing our cattle and supporting our livelihood, and it is for all of us. But the New World Order came, that land now belongs to an individual. You have a title deed or a paper that says this is your land. Our people must understand. Our people did not know what it is. They thought that you are given a paper, and if you sell this paper, you make money. But they never took it that they are losing their land. So we are not going to occupy the space of kazi yetu ni kuuza mashamba. That is not our job. We must position our community rightfully to be at the center of the development of Kenya and to become a key cog, as history shows we were a key cog at some point. Before the Mzungu put a knife on the things that held us together, as Chinua Achebe puts it, the Maasai were a very solid community. Our culture put us in a way that everybody respected us. In fact, Thompson described in his book in 1885 that the Maasai are a noble community, but also a dangerous lot. So when Charles Elliot came in as commissioner, which then was the governor or the president of Kenya in that time, he said, one of the first things we must do is to remove this Maasaidom. kill their ceremonies, weaken them, remove them from the center, put them to closed district, then you have Kenya for you. And that is why they even went ahead to brand us collaborators. We were not collaborators. Independence came at a time when the Maasai were terribly weakened. Many Maasai heroes were killed and they were never recorded. Many Maasai bombers were buried alive with the people and it was never captured. Just for them to come and say in the later on, the Maasais were collaborators. How do we become collaborators when we have lost all our land? They come and say, oh, the leader of the Maasai is Lenana. Lenana was not our leader. Lenana was our seer, like Bon, somebody who says predict things. The Maasai is governed through a council. Every age group has a leader. And because of those Rika, there will be many of them. So that council of leaders of age groups become the Maasai governing structure. So when they came and say the Anglo-Maasai agreement, the Lenana agreement, that is all rubbish. It was to blackmail the Maasai because they did not want to confront them, because the Maasais had a structure that had something like the military, the Morans, they had the command center, the elders, and so they would provide the strongest resistance. So to avoid that, they say, oh, you Maasai nation, let us sign an agreement. Oh, we have spoken to your leader. But at the same time, the gun was used to kill so many of them. And so we were never collaborators. We were put that tag, and we must continue to say we were not collaborators, because we were not. Yes, we could have had a few sellouts, like every community had theirs, kidogo kidogo, but the person must take his rightful place in modern Kenya. And that is done through education, safeguarding their land, using our culture to advance our good, and also giving us what will be our cash crop, our culture, our livestock, and our wildlife.
Okay.
We are the only community that safely stays with wildlife without fearing. If you bring another community into the wildlife area, they must have guns, they must be fully protected. But a Maasai boy will look after his cows and sheep. The elephants are there, the buffaloes are there, everybody is there. We live with them. We don't fear. We have the order. If you go to a waterhole in a national park, animals have order. Elephants take water first, followed by buffaloes. The dik-dik and gazelles will come last. So even us, when we come with our cows, when we see the elephants and the buffaloes, we hold on, kidogo. Wanakunywa maji, wanaenda. We bring our cows. And
before
so,
the dik-diks and the gazelles.
Those must follow us also, And there's no conflict. The natural order in the park, it is us who understands. And why now you are spending so much money in helicopters, in guns, in training, is because you are introducing strangers to our space and alienating us. So those are the conversations we must have so that the Maasai take its right place in the nation Kenya.
So I know you had mentioned the Nkipata,
Unoto, Olngesher.
Yes, which are recognized by UNESCO. Yes.
And President Ruto was given a certificate to that effect to receive it on behalf of the Maasai.
Okay.
And we are very proud that UNESCO has said this intangible aspect of Maasai culture must be safeguarded for future generations, for humanity.
All right.
Not just for ourselves.
Okay, but this is the observation they make, that while the rites still attract relatively sizable crowds, the practice appears to be rapidly declining due to the fast emergence of agriculture as a main source of income, reforms of the land tenure system, and the impact of climate change that affects the survival of cattle. How are you planning to preserve this culture?
By us having that conversation, we are saying this is the third edition. Remember, we said Amboseli was lost because our leaders fought. Amboseli now was given to us back because the three Ma governors, Governor Lati of Samburu, Governor Ndutu of Narok, and myself, through our community orders, took it to our President Ruto to say, look at this history. And Ruto said, I know it. In fact, President Kibaki attempted to do it.
Where do we go to read this history?
But it is part of us. It is our conversation. It is part of us. And that is what our children, we want them to know. In Kajiado County, just to give an example, the importance of culture and values.
So this is passed on generation to generation?
Yes. When I come to campaign in Ngong and I come to Kitengela and I talk, the young generation say, wewe mbuyu, kwenda nini, wapi pesa? But when I go to Maasai land and I talk to these people, they know a father is talking, a leader is talking. They must not necessarily vote for me. They will also ask their question genuinely, but very respectfully. We must give our children our values as Africans. Then we will stop lamenting watoto wa siku hizi. Watoto wa siku hizi is because of parents wa siku hizi. It is the parents that are not giving the children what their values are. If you look at what this Maasai culture is, you will hear from another community, oh, we used to be like this. Oh, it used to be there. Oh, we found it. Why did we lose it? We want to re-engineer it for everybody to copy. And for because even as much as children must be obedient and talk orders and all that, they also have their right. Their right to guidance, they have their leadership, the preparation for tomorrow, preparation to be leaders, preparation to be family people, preparation to protect the community, and community livelihoods. Okay. I don't agree that agriculture is eating that space. As a county government, we have our spatial planning for Kajiado. Because we recognize if we did not have a spatial plan, Nairobi will make Kajiado one big slum one day. So we did our spatial planning and say, for our urban towns, because we know the future is urban, we set places for human settlement as our urban centers. For our wildlife, we have designated places for wildlife. For our livestock, we have places for livestock. For our agriculture, we have places for agriculture. So we have catered for everybody in this spatial plan, and none should interfere with the others. In fact, in the coming in of Amboseli, the Kilimanjaro areas around Loitoktok, Kimana, and all that will be fenced off from wildlife and from livestock. That become agriculture. The Amboseli plains coming all the way to Namanga will be a roaming space for our livestock and our wildlife. And they should be able to coexist peacefully, and it will bring prosperity because even the wildlife will support the livestock through water, through feedlots, through research, through education, and our livestock will now become our cash crop. You know, we are working on a model to say we can no longer practice pastoralism as a culture and a way of life. Pastoralism must become an enterprise. Okay. You know, anchored on three pillars: dairy, meat, hide and skins. Those are the three value chains for our livestock. So now we are moving our community, even in this conversation, to say, we sifuga ng'ombe ya kienyeji, it must be a cow, it must be a business. So what cow are you keeping? Ni ya maziwa, this is the breed. And this is the way it should be kept. Ni ya nyama, this is the breed, and this is the way it should be kept. And then now, hatutakuwa tunafuatana tuna ng'ombe, oh kiangazi imekuja, ng'ombe ya Maasai imejaa Nairobi. Hapana. We are directing our community to remain modern. We are also pushing that the future being urban, they must also go to towns. You see, the administration that followed the Mzungu's administration, they came to Maasai land, take some of our oases and made them urban centers or towns. But at that time, they say, oh, Maasai is our town. So we grew up knowing sisi sio watu wa town. So we're just living in the bush. Maasais must come to town. They must take their space in town because the future is urban. Oh, Maasai attacking education. Those who are haters for Maasai and those who are saboteurs for our community who are benefiting from us. Okay. So they push that narrative. We must push back the narrative to say we are going urban, we are going to school, we are going conservation, we are protecting our culture, we will remain Maasai, but we will remain Kenyan. And then we take our rightful space in Kenya.
Mesemata Nairobi ni nyumbani, place of what? Cool water.
Everywhere in this Kenya, because the journey through Maasai land by Joseph Thompson of 1885, the journey through Kenya was all Maasai land. You hear now Nyahururu is a Maasai name for Naururu. You hear Nanyuki, Maasai name for Nanyuki. You hear Nairobi, where you are, Ngariak, Nairobi. You know, Eldoret, Lodenterit, all that was Maasai land. So when the Mzungus displaced us, there was never, we didn't even know because then we were in closed districts. We never knew that Kenya came back. Okay. So as much as historical injustices are there, we are saying That is not our complaint. Our complaint is we look forward. Remember, Kwame Nkrumah said, east to west, in the time of the Cold War, we neither look west nor east. We look forward.
All right.
So we don't want to lament too much of what has happened. We must tidy what is going to happen going forward.
And you've said Destination Tuesday, Kimana Gate.
Destination Tuesday, Amboseli.
Amboseli.
You know, Destination Tuesday, Amboseli.
Wapi tunakutana wapi?
Unaanza hapa Nairobi, you know where Amboseli is?
Yes.
So you can turn in Kimana, you can turn in Remito.
Okay.
So directions are very clear.
All right.
And President Ruto is coming there to give us the double celebration, celebrating our culture, celebrating Amboseli.
All right, sawa. Thank you very much for the invite. Kuja tufanye news hapo. I will consult with my boss.
Yes.
I see here as part of the feedback, Sylvia Mutiso saying, I will be there from Tuesday training on quality milk in Kajiado. Have your say. We'll be reading more of your feedback. The hashtag is Citizen Sunday Live. The X handles are at Obarus at Citizen TV Kenya. And the SMS line is 22422. We take a break, but Sunday Live continues on the other side.